We have found PRI, Prep Recruiting Insider. I'm the coach of PRI, Rick Gailey, along with our insider, Renee Nato, and we are so happy and pleased to be joined today by the Executive Vice President and Chief Administrative Officer of Entergy, but he's a lot more than that, Rod West. Rod, thank you for joining us here.
Pleasure to be here, guys. Thanks for inviting me.
Rod, always glad to see you. You were at Brother Martin under Coach Bobby Connell, a Scholastic All-American. You were All-State. You were a District and Metro MVP, and you were the captain of the football, basketball, where you almost averaged a double-double, and track. But how much did sports help you in the business world to where you are?
Well, when you think about success in business and what does it take to be successful, the messages are the same. It's about discipline. It's about preparation. The message that I learned very early on in high school, that success came before work in only one place, the dictionary. So it is in business. And one of the wonderful things about athletics that you learn very early on is that it's not about you. It's about the team. And those were messages that I learned at St. Maria Goretti Park out in New Orleans East, that Coach Conlon and the other coaches reinforced at Brother Martin, and goodness knows Lou Holtz at Notre Dame. And so when I'm talking to my daughter at home, I'm talking to my colleagues at the office, I'm sounding like my parents and coaches because the messages are the same.
And you look for those same qualities in hiring
Absolutely.
People.
Absolutely.
I think that is the biggest take that people watching this show can get, that as a young person, you need to develop those qualities. It doesn't have to be innate. It doesn't have to be environment. You can make a choice to be a team player, to be a hard worker, to do the things that are necessary for you to hire great employees.
That's absolutely right. When you think about someone who's played competitive sports, you know that person has had to overcome adversity. And we talk in football about having to go to the well when you're tired during tour days in the fourth quarter. You don't realize you have a well until you're forced to discover it. But one of the benefits of overcoming adversity is a confidence in how you carry yourself and how you face challenges. Challenge is the path to success. You learn that through having to overcome adversity. And people who played team sports, I think there is a competitive advantage, assuming they've also taken care of academics. There's a competitive advantage in the workplace where if I have an opportunity and I have two people with very similar skills, and there's one person who has a background in extracurricular activities or sports, I'm gonna have a point of view that says I'll take the chance on the man or the woman who's proven that they know what it takes to win, and it served us well in business for sure.
Your dad was an athlete.
That's right.
How did that spill over and help you? He played on the collegiate level.
My father played during the era of Eddie Robinson at Grambling, and as he came of age, African American athletes, particularly those in Louisiana, played at the historically black colleges and universities, and he had the honor of playing for the great Eddie Robinson for at least 2 years, and he was the one who implored for me that athletics was a pathway. It wasn't just something to do to keep you out of trouble, but it was actually a platform that would help round me out as a then young man.
And those qualities, once again, not just in acquiring excellent employees, but you face crisis after crisis after crisis. We just had one last night where I live in Laplace. The tornado came within a half mile of my house, but you've got to have an organization that's put together where you're not just up in the ivory tower, but that organization's got to be right there to spring into action and solve problems.
Life is what happens to us while we're making other plans, right? And how you respond to that adversity, it's no different than if you're fatigued. It's no different than if something bad happens to you. You have to fall back on your fundamentals. And again, that's the consistent message that young athletes will hear from their coaches. One of the toughest things that coaches have as a job, no different than being a parent or a teacher, is to force these young people to do things that they're naturally not inclined to do, but to put them in a position to achieve the goals they're going to want for themselves. Right. And so young teenagers who are in high school don't really get the significance of discipline, the significance of hard work. And they want to do what's easy. Why? Because as a teenager, that's what you'd rather do. But when you become 18, 19, and 20 years old and you begin to understand what the real world is all about, you think back to those days where you were forced to be disciplined, and you're thankful that it gave you a platform to overcome the adversity. It's the same message we teach in the field, where we have the linemen and women who manipulate this electric distribution system, where you have literally hundreds of thousands of volts of electricity, that you're managing danger every day. And when a storm or tornadoes come through, like they've come through the region just last night, you want to fall back on your fundamentals, because you can't then decide that it's important to work safely. It has to be second nature. And that only comes through hard work. And I'm really, really grateful for the men and women of Entergy for what they do to keep the lights on and the gas flowing, even in this studio.
Katrina, it taught you a lesson, didn't it? It raised the bar, and it made you see things that we would never have imagined.
Right. Katrina was, for the entire region, a lesson in humility. There was no one who was spared, whether you came from a well-to-do or a poor neighborhood, whether you went to a public or a private school, whether you were white, black, Asian, Native American, Indian, it didn't matter. If you lived anywhere in this region, you were humbled by that storm. But Katrina also brought out the best in New Orleans. It brought people together who never would have otherwise found a way to connect. And I look back at this city 11 years later. We now have Katrina in the background, in the mirror where she belongs. And the beauty of New Orleans is that we now define ourselves by our aspirations as a city. We're no longer recovering from Katrina. We're moving towards our aspiration to be a great place where young people can learn and play and evolve and work and contribute to the community. And so it's been an interesting story to tell. Everybody has a story about Katrina, but mine is no different than others. It's a story about humility, about overcoming adversity, and then reaffirming who we are as New Orleanians. It's a proud moment for us.
That's right. Challenge doesn't build character, it reveals it, doesn't it?
You got it.
We found out about who's got character and who is a character. And we're going to be right back after this short time out. More from Mr. Rod West and some of the great lessons that he's learned and how he helps develop other people. We'll be right back. This is Prep Recruiting Insider, PRI.